I'm gonna just start by telling you all a little bit about what the social action projects are from our Friends Forever side. I won't be doing that for too long. I know what we're really here for is to hear from the folks that completed them, but just to give us a little bit of background. So Friends Forever International's mission is to help youth become the best versions of themselves so that they can help their community become the best version of itself. And going through these projects are really where we get to take that mission and make it actionable. And these two and the rest of the folks that have made it to this point are really a testament to that, in making that small scale community change with the resources that they have at their disposal right now. So the FFI immersion program, these programs are usually between 10 and 16 days in person, but before their in-person component, they go through a team building phase where they develop their team identity, they bond as a team, and they come up with the goals and the foundation for success during the in-person component of their program. And then after that in-person part, they go through what you're just seeing the final component of right now, which is their community building phase, where they develop, plan, and implement a community-based project addressing a need that they recognize in the community that they're in. And just to give you a little overview, this has been, this time, it's our first time doing it quite in this way. As anyone who's been with Friends Forever for a while knows, we're constantly changing the mold of what we do and doing things that are making improvements that are more efficient and work for the groups we're working with. So the community building phase is about 12 weeks with some breaks in between for some in-person meetings and some areas of feedback. But for the most part, these folks have been walking themselves through that curriculum and communicating with us along the way. And when it comes to, like I had mentioned, of understanding a community need that they're going to address, we've started by comparing and contrasting the way we see that community issue with other folks, understanding who in our community is already addressing that issue, why that issue matters, and more specifically, why it matters to us. What is our why? And how does the perspective that we have impact the way that we view this issue? And then taking all of that information, everyone looks at, okay, what impact can I make with all of that information in mind? They first developed a brainstorm where they turned their project idea and develops a list of stakeholders and folks in their community that could help, some of the outcomes for their project and what success really looks like. They developed all of the objectives. We use the OCRA's method here of objectives, key results, and action steps. And they developed a budget and put those in order of what's going to be most essential for their project to be able to happen. And then from all of those objectives, key results, action steps, we've turned those action steps into a timeline and an actionable plan that they can follow through. And as you can see, that in itself and getting that to its most finalized state and submitting a project proposal is a lot of work. And along the way, they've had different advisory reviews where they've met with staff, alumni, and got some feedback on their projects and learned about ways that they can further develop them. So there's been that sort of communicative Friends Forever piece throughout, but they've really done an enormous amount of work to reach the point that you're seeing today.
So my project is Political Empathy for Teens, and this is a photo of me with my team in Roxbury in Boston. We did a walking tour of the city, and it was quite fun, and we learned a lot about the, local history of Roxbury. So I thought it was a nice picture. So a little bit about me. I'm from the Kearsarge Lake Sunapee region in New Hampshire, so it's kind of central New Hampshire. I go to the Kearsarge School District, which is one of the, I think it might be the largest geographic district in New Hampshire. There's, I believe, 7 towns. It's not that many kids, but it's a lot of towns, a lot of physical area. I'm a very busy person. I like to stay active in my community. I like to work and join clubs and stuff. So, and I'm really excited about my project. So the problem I'm seeking to address is political divisiveness. And this is a subject that I came up with, kind of just by observing my own community. And then I was kind of gratified to realize that it is a problem that there have been lots of studies about, lots of people have been noticing the same problem. So, in the first graphic here on the left, you can see some polls from the Pew Research Center regarding how people view politics. And the general consensus is that the political scene in the United States has gotten increasingly less respectful over the last several years. Um, and then in the middle, you see, people from one party or the other hold very unfavorable or very strong negative opinions of people from other parties. And the general, associations, as you can see on the right with American politics, is that they are divisive and they're messy and they're corrupt and there's all these sort of negative connotations. So the reason I believe that this matters is because, to put it simply, teens are kind of growing up jaded, where they have access to all sorts of, political information and discourse through social media. It's all over the news, it's everywhere. And so they're having this constant input of just, you know, all the things that are happening from every point of view. So it can be really hard to kind of discern, what matters to you and how do you actually engage in politics. Because if you see, a very aggressive debate on national television, that's not how you're going to actually be going about those conversations in real life. I've also found out in some of my research that, even just having the belief that you can reach a consensus actually aids in helping you to reach a consensus. So, teaching students the way to engage with their peers about this is really important, especially as, I'm 17, I'm going to be turning 18, not for another year, but a lot of people are coming up on their first year of being able to vote and participate in politics. So I think it's really important for them to be prepared. So I'm hoping to hold a conference on political empathy for students in my school. I chose this sort of platform because this is something that students in my school are kind of familiar with. There are other conferences that take place in my area, such as the CARE conference, which is hosted by my school, and the HYPE conference, which is hosted by a Souhegan High School, also in the state. And HYPE is about philosophy and connections, and then CARE is about leadership. So the format of these conferences is you go, there's usually a presentation of some sort, there's some speakers, you're sorted into groups, and then in those groups you have time to really discuss guiding questions and concepts of the day. And then you often will reconnect as a much larger group to sort of have a larger roundtable discussion. So that's something that a lot of kids in my school are already really familiar with. They already really enjoy that platform, so I think it's a really good way to engage them on this subject. So ideally, I'm hoping to hold this at my SAU. There's a professional development center there, and I'm hoping to hold it this fall at the beginning of the 2024-2025 school year. I have not secured this location yet. However, I have meetings coming up with administrators and extended learning opportunity coordinators within my school to start discussing the specifics of securing this space and transportation and hosting my conference here. So the way to facilitate this is it's going to be a little bit of a group effort. So I'm going to be forming a community of student stakeholders to hopefully, work with me on this. I'm going to try and have a social media presence for this project to sort of draw students in, especially over the summer and coming into the new school year. These students should be able to help in coordinating this space and securing speakers, as well as coming up with a curriculum for the event. Because I'm personally not an expert on political empathy. A big portion of my credit bearing project was empathetic debate, and that was a curriculum that I really enjoyed that I'm going to try and draw on for this, but I'm by no means an expert. So it's definitely going to be a group effort to sort of devise a curriculum and decide exactly how we want to introduce this subject to students. And then these students will also be able to help me with outreach for fundraising. So this is just a screenshot of my anticipated budget. It comes in a little over $1,200. So this has a lot of assumptions because I haven't, like I said, I haven't secured this space. So I'm allocating money for space, which is the primary, thing we have to set. We have to have somewhere to hold the conference. And then after that comes things like transportation and, janitorial costs. And then after that is the specifics about, making this conference as exciting and, helpful for students as it can be, which would involve curriculum materials and speakers. So for resources, fundraising, and volunteers, on the left here, you can see, kind of some, generalizations about how this is going to work in terms of, things we're going to be planning for. So that's going to be collecting donations for, maybe the school will be able to, donate the space, which is something that I'll be discussing with my school administration in the coming weeks. And then generally, we're going to work to connect with our wider community, including, parents and students, as well as getting donations for food because teenagers are hungry. So they're going to be there all day. We want to feed them. And then I'm hoping to get together a club of about 5 to 10 student volunteers, as well as some teacher and admin volunteers to supervise so that this committee can work, through this spring and into the fall to coordinate the project and follow through afterwards to, gauge some feedback. And here we have a photo featuring Todd, who is joining us today. But so for teens, this political empathy project would mean, a group of students who feel prepared to engage with their peers in political conversations because it is a really sensitive thing to try and engage in. And I hope to be able to prepare some of my classmates to, share their ideas and be productive, people as they enter adulthood, as they enter the political scene. And then that would just be my references. But this is my thank you for listening.